amigo sommelier?
Sí, hombre, claro.
Claro, el Héctor está acá con los vinos, ahí está.
Ahí vamos, ese. Que no beba mucho, weón.
No, weón.
Nos ponemos a tope, weón.
Dale. Bueno, aquí
Está bien.
tenemos todos los vinos. Todos los vinos preparados.
Sí.
Todas las
Okay, I'm
palabras.
going to start us.
Perfect.
Everybody make sure you're muted. Okay.
Sí.
All right. I think everyone is starting. What do you think, Pedro?
Okay, I'm here.
All right. Well, great.
Can you listen? Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I'm here. Sorry.
Yes, you are here. We are here.
Yeah. We're both here. Great.
I think it's. You should start because even though we don't, we have. It looks like a lot of time, but I think that we can keep talking for many hours, and I hope that this little conversation will lead to other conversations, and I hope to have many conversations with Pedro. I have known Pedro for a number of years, and he's been very kind to help me and Jordan with our last book. And I kept telling him, I said, come on, Pedro, write a book because it's time. It's coming. And then here it is. And this book is a book for me. You can pick up any page, read 2 pages, and then go back and come back to another page. So it's written in such a way with so much passion. I think that this book can be dissected into 10 different books. And I think that is what we are going to discuss today. We're going to discuss this book, the philosophy of Pedro. And if you don't know, he's an amazing blind taster. I once gave him 7 Pinot Noirs, blind, double blind, no idea what it was. And he nailed the soil of all 7. And this was from Sancerre to San Rita Hill. So it's not just classic wine. So it's pretty extraordinary. But Pedro, let's people know you here, but I think that we should maybe start with your background first. Early days, how you got into wine, and how you are unique, the only the PhD of terroir, because that's something which is not, someone doesn't go for that. It's to be the most unique and the one and only in such a field where now everyone is interested, but I'm sure 20 years ago they were not. So let's go from the beginning and end up as your own education.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you for the very kind words. I think that this kind of journey of terroir has been like I can say a very lucky guy, because I am a forest engineer, nothing to do with wine. Nobody in my family has never made a wine, never drink wine at home, nothing. So, but I was my main interest when I was young in the university was not the forest, was the movie. I wanted to be a movie director, like seeing Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola movies or Italian movies, wherever. Back in that time in Chile, that was not possible. There was no way to somebody to study for cinema, and music was also my great passion. So I was trying to play music, to be a musician, but it's very difficult. So basically, at the end of the day, I was a 25 years old guy with nothing, a career title that was nothing to me. And then I was very lucky because I got a grant from the French embassy, and that grant brought me to Montpellier for 2 years, to the agronomical center of Montpellier. And that I was introduced to soil, geology, viticulture at the same time, but nothing was together. It was like different teachers, professors, and then something that was, something that was very lucky for me, a great lucky day. I was sent to the center of Paris. I knew nobody there, and in that center they were doing great research on terroir at that moment. Terroir was a very new word for me, not drinking wine. What is terroir was, very, very surrealistic for me. And then I worked with them for 3 or 4 months, and I got this sense of holisticity, different topics that brings to a bottle of wine. That is the only thing I learned during 3 or 4 months, but was just enough to come back to Chile. I worked to Chile doing research in the university, but always with the idea of wine and terroir in my head. I got married with my wife, Camila, and then one day, trying to figure out what was the next step for me in my life, you never know what happened. I contacted my professor in Paris, Michel Claude Girard, great professor. He's retired now. And Girard accepted me in the program of PhD for doing this PhD on terroir with him, in Paris. That was for 4 years. And I think that changed completely the music for me, because one day I was in Paris with my wife, with my son, and talking about geology, talking about soil, topography, and everything that, weather connected with terroir. And that was a little by little, growing. And I will say a change of the rhythm of the music came when I visited Burgundy for the first time. That was back in 2002. And I was very lucky, because again, lucky, because one Chilean friend of mine who studied in Burgundy introduced me with Louis Michel Ligebeller. So that will be the picture number 2. So people will get to see what is Louis Michel. And we were very young, Louis Michel was taking the domain back in 2002. So I think he was trying to find his way. And I was very young as well. So I was doing this PhD research, but not really understanding what I was doing. And I remember the first time we went down to the cellar to taste all the wines, and we were young, stupid young kids, I would say. And Louis Michel started to ask me questions about minerality. What is minerality? And to me, that was a very new word, mineral. What means minerality? And we were trying, wines like Regnault, La Romanée, and everything. So I think, again, I will use the word luck. When you start drinking wine with La Romanée, it's something that it never happens, in life. So, and I remember we stayed at the chateau, and the next day we got breakfast very early with La Romanée. So that was, again, was like, a Luis Buñuel film, like surrealistic, like, and that's the other day I was discussing with Louis Michel, because he told me that you started your career with me. Are you sure? I said, yeah, that was the day back in 2002 that I really understood, what means minerality, how important is the typicity. And I will say that was the day number one for me, and that's it. That 4 years traveling in France, trying to meet people to understand what everybody was thinking about, soil, rocks, and terroir. And then I was back in Chile. That's how I started.
Wow. And then from there, when did you start planning? Oh, there's Louis Michel.
Yes, Michel is
Nice. So how did you, I mean, there's so many things you did in between that time and now, but when did you start thinking of this book?
The idea of the book, I think that was around maybe 10 years ago. And that was my wife again, Camila. Every time that I was working and coming back home, late after the whole day in the vineyards, I was bringing histories, funny histories about my clients, what, so many histories at the end. And my wife told me, you cannot retire without doing a book, because people needs to know about the history. So she was more in his head. She was more looking like a history, like funny histories, because many funny things happens when you are in the hole, in the pit, looking for roots. People start to talk. So at the end of the day, after one long day, people talk to you many things. So I know the business plan of maybe all my clients, for example, so it's very fun. And so my wife was really saying to me, you need to write a book. And she insisted very much, but I'm not a writer. So that was not in my mind. And then one day I was traveling to the Patagonia in Argentina. We were in a plane with a very dear friend who sadly passed away. That was Alan York. And Alan York, who was the best viticulturist I ever worked in my life, after working with, 500 viticulturists. Alan York was a biodynamic brain, like an alien brain. And Alan was at that moment writing a book. He was writing a book, and he asked me if I can help him with one chapter in that play. And then that conversation went, Pedro, you should do the same thing, and he really pushed me a lot. And then maybe 1 month later, we were both working. That was of the funny history. We were working for Sting, the musician in Tuscany. And that was one fantastic night, because Alba, the cooker of Sting, that night came for cooking, some pasta for us. So we were, Alan and myself, with the cooker doing the pasta, and in front of the fireplace, what was like the winter, drinking and eating like hell, quality life. And at that moment, Alan said to me, Guy, you need to write a book. That I think that is the moment that I really fully take conscience that I may write a book someday. But I was not pushing that, and then I was in the south of Chile. My family, we owned a house in the mountains. And one day, I wake up 8 a.m. and did my coffee, opened my computer, I start writing 3 years ago. And that was great, because that was an exercise to review my life, my complete life. That was most an exercise to me and I was 50, so I wanted to look like a movie again, always thinking like a movie, like Cinema Paradiso, if you want. I was looking back, what I was doing, and trying to write this book and make something that counts,
And I mean, this book, first of all, tell us how you laid it out, because it's laid out in a very, it's amazing that you didn't have an editor. After anyone who's written a book has to know how involved an editor is, and you clearly did it yourself. And then you have this amazing love for music.
Yeah.
In your wines, in your own wines, in this book. Can you talk about the layout of the book and then the music reference?
Yeah, of course. And I I do. I mean, I did have an editor for the Spanish version. It's a good friend of mine. It's so difficult to have an editor because it should be somebody who knows you and who understands wine. So I have this friend. It's a weird, funny Argentinian guy. He's called Giorgio Benedetti, who spent his whole day surfing and running his company. And Giorgio was a big help for me because he was in the Spanish version, especially guiding me. You know, he knows me very well. He knows wines very well, and so that was that part because my Spanish is not very good. I attend a French school, so I never really learned Spanish very well.
That's funny.
And then, you know, for the next step, that is the idea of the design of the book. It's complicated because I'm a person that is very much into. I love design. You know, I would love to be an architect as well, and I want to have this book with a special touch. And so I decided I bought the software. It's called InDesign, and I took some lessons, and I started to do everything in my computer. That was more fun. It's 100% personal. So, and then for the music, I knew that I wanted something, you know, that inspired me. And I remember, you know, the day that I took the decision, you know, like I'm going to do it. I was in the Barossa Valley in Australia, and I was heavily jet lagged. You know, this is terrible because from Chile to Barossa is 13 hours. So, and I was, you know, playing music and something, and then I got the idea that every chapter should be a chapter about what I was listening at that moment. And I listened to music the whole day. So then I decided that jazz, you know, was something, the most important music in my life. And so I decided to name every chapter with a musician and a record. You know, that to me is important, something that I was listening during the writing of the book, and also something that really matched with what I was trying to say in every chapter. So it's a playlist of jazz, basically.
Yeah, amazing. So, you know, I remember when I first met you.
Yeah.
You said that your favorite, this is many years ago, you said, I love limestone and granite, you know? And he says, and you said, and I asked you something about other things, and you're like, yes, but I specialize in granite and limestone.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know how many years ago, but it was several years ago. So how did you know that this is what you're going to, like, how did you end up with limestone and granite? And because you were very, because they're two opposites, of course, and you can maybe move into maybe the way the rock, you know, how they form, all of it. And but why granite and limestone?
I think it's a combination of many things through time, you know, experience. But to me, you know, limestone, it's a difficult rock. Not everybody has limestone. So limestone is mostly focalized in Europe. You know, to find limestone outside Europe is complicated, and that there's a geological explanation. You know, the water, the ocean, blah blah blah. But everybody that is not European dreams to have a limestone vineyard. That is, I have worked for many clients that, you know, hire me to say, found me limestone, Pedro, and it's, you have it or not. That is the answer. And you know, going back to the first date, you know, with Michelle, I always think that you get, it's like the movie Ratatouille. I don't know if, have you seen Ratatouille?
Oh,
you know, with the it's the same thing. You know, I think the real first experience of my life in terms of wine were in Burgundy and were in Bon Romanée. So you get that like a baby, you know, and you get this sense of something, like this kind of energy that you get down there. But it was difficult to me back in Chile to drink many limestone wines because it's impossible to buy that because at that moment there were no importers in the country. So that makes the challenge more difficult. Every time that I was traveling in Europe, I was basically trying to drink limestone. So that's you want that, you try it, and it's difficult. So you get in love with that. And at the same time, in Chile, you know, we have a fantastic granite. It's what we really, I think, is the highlight of the country in terms of terroir. And we have from the north of the country to the south of the country, we have so much granite. We don't use, we are like in a wake up moment in Chile now, but for many years, we never used the granite. We were stupid in the past. Anyway, I was impressed always, but how fun the granite is in terms of terroir working. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful rock. You can dig, you know, big holes in the big pits, and it always amazed me because it depends on the quartz and the silica. I mean, it's a great rock. And then again, it's like ratatouille. Your taste, your palate get, you know, custom with that kind of tension in your mouth. And so I started to buy granite from all around the world, you know, the Northern Rhone first, and then I became, I would say, maybe a geek on limestone and granite. And you get trained. You drink, you know, and I think that is the way. There are other rocks I love, you know, but if you go to my cellar is going to be 75% granite and limestone today. That is the truth, you know. But basalt can be fantastic, but it's difficult. It's, you know, the chapter in the book of basalt is basalt. You need to really work 10 times more to get, you know, the elegance, the finesse on the rock. And schist is difficult as well. And gneiss, the other rocks can be great, but they're more difficult.
So tell us something. This is, you know, you explained to me, and I know that you've done some pretty serious work with Jean-Marc Rouleau and with Louis-Michel de Gebelair and others who you work with. How you map the vineyard in you know, like in your book, you have many maps.
Yeah.
And it gives you the different, you know, so like, you know, how do you map it? Like, and what do you tell? I know you did some work in Oregon, and you were looking at the rocks and how big and the root system. Tell us how that actually comes about.
I think you have that one step, and is the most important step, you know, is to know the genetic of who you are. You know, that is the geology. Geology is everything. So it's like genetics, like who is your father, your mother. That's to me essential. So of course, if you go to Burgundy, you know that the mother is limestone. So everywhere I go, Puligny, Chassagne, Meursault, Von Romanet, Champol, wherever, if I dig, there is limestone there. So that's the first step. There is no mystery. That's why Burgundy makes so great wines. You can be a horrible winemaker in Burgundy, and the wine is going to be good, you know, because it's the genetic, you know, that is, you can be Maradona and be drunk playing football, and you're number one. That is genetic. So Burgundy has that atomic genetic. But sometimes my clients, you know, you arrive to, I don't know, again, to Oregon. You go to Oregon. I remember my first day, that was Dandy Hills. We were doing some holes, and that was, I was looking for rocks, you know, because at that moment we were working together with Louis-Michel. Louis-Michel told me, I want to produce this kind of Pinot Noir, blah, 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 blah. That was very clear to me in my head. And I knew that if we don't have rocks, it's impossible. So the day number one in Oregon was, I need to find rocks, point, period. That is that. And then, and we did like 20 pits in Dundee and no rocks, zero. So, okay, I'm not saying it's a bad terroir, but I will never be able to find a grapes for Louis Michel to make that wine grape, you know, because no rocks, no music. And so we started to little by little to try to understand where is the stony moment of the basalt, because if the basalt is completely transformed into soil, then there is again no music. And I say, so point number one is who you are. Do you have stones or not? So if you do have stones, that is very important, Then you go to point number 2, and point number 2 is you dig, you dig, and normally I do that very fast. I dig maybe 5-10 pits to try to tune up, the geology. So we do have stones, we have this kind of basalt, and with that information, I know how to really, set up the potentiality that is in front. Then the next step, and this is something that is difficult, I would say, is try to scale, that vineyard to Burgundy, because in Burgundy, and that's something that you know from since the beginning, one vineyard can be 2 barrels, and 2 barrels make the difference. 1 barrel of Roumier Musigny makes the whole difference. So that scale in Burgundy is very different from the scale in other countries. So when a client of mine say, Pedro, I have this block. This block is about 12 acres. I know that in 12 acres I can make. There are many parts, that can make something special. So that third point is try to really push the limits of the space, trying to find that 1 barrel or 3 or 5 barrels that really makes the wine difference. And for that, we use a very modern technique that is called electroconductivity. And this electroconductivity is complicated, but at the end of the day, it's like going to the hospital and you do a scanner, So, and then you get the scanner, and you need the doctor to interpret the scanner. Say, okay, you have this and this and this and this. So you do the map. I don't do the map. It's a company, external company, very solid company that understand how to do that. If you don't understand, you make huge mistakes. And then I get the map, and my role is to interpret that map. It's an energy map. So it's electricity in the soil. So my role is to interpret electricity energy in terms of tannins in your mouth, quality, typicity, wine typicity. And so you use that technology, and you dig again. So the second time that you dig, you go back, but now you are not blind. Now, because you have that map, you know where to dig. And knowing very well where to dig, you really interpret that map, and you create these micro terroir units. And then some are going to be mediocre, some may be very good, some may be atomic. That is going to depend, on the weather every year, and it's going to depend on the history of the vineyard. So vines, rootstock, human choices and selections, and then it's going to depend on the musician. The musician. That's where the winemaker is so important. I mean, and I hate the word winemaker. To me, it's more like a guy who makes wine should be somebody who knows his terroir, to know how to play the music, because you can have a great terroir and the music can be very bad. So that's
And what about the viticulture? If you have a parcel and one person is using herbicide and one person is not using herbicide, the connection between the soil and the wine, is it different in?
It is. I mean, one major problem I think in the world of wine is that a lot of research has been done, but it's kind of the same research always. So these kind of topics, down there in the soil, the very few people is doing research on that, because it's more difficult, because you need to dig, and dig is expensive, it's complicated. Nobody's digging at the end of the day, but digging allows you to understand the essence of the wine. That is, again, I would use the word the genetic, and the genetic is the relation between your site and your roots, where you connect. And because there's very little research, I have my own theory, that is more like a movie theory, like imagination on the theory. And to me is that when you have stones in the soil, basically what is happening down there, Raj, is that the stones are going to break. That is, they can generate fractures, And these normally are like 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter fractures. And then in that fracture, is going to grow or develop soil. It's going to be 1 millimeter of soil. But that soil is very different from the superficial soil. So that soil in the fracture is, I used to say to my clients, is a 3 étoiles Michelin. It's like the Pitu Roca restaurant. So when you are in the fracture, you're really eating the real thing, you know, and it's very special to every site and every rock, because every site get different fractures. And then in this soil, you will have air, you will have water, you will have coal, you will have oxidoreduction, and you will have roots. And the next things that you need that roots to eat this kind of mineral soil that is in the fracture. And to do that, you need, it's like humans, you know, you need somebody to plug the music. You know, you can play the guitar plug or unplug. And that is the microbiology down there, like the mycorrhizae, you know. The mycorrhizae takes the roots and plug the roots with the minerals in the soil. You know, it's a connection. So to connect music, you need electricity. You need to be able to connect your equipment. If you don't have the connection, you cannot connect. If you don't have microbiology, you cannot connect, you know, the roots with the system. And if you are a lousy viticulturist, if you spray shit in your vineyard, yeah. If you spread shit in the vineyard, what you're doing is losing porosity, losing air. So ergo, you are killing the microbiology. And no microbiology, no connection. No connection, no movement of the special food, no movement of special foods. All the vineyards in the world are the same, because they are all eating the superficial soil, which is McDonald's. So the great distinction, you know, why one great wine from Jean-Marc in Meursault, from, I don't know, Letillier to Tesson, they're both fantastic limestone terroir. But what is happening in the restaurant is very different. So if Jean-Marc tomorrow decide to work badly the superficial, what is going to happen is that the microbiology down there at 2 meters is going to die. And no microbiology, no transmission, no grip, no minerality, no tension, bye-bye.
I totally agree. I've tasted with you and been to soil pits with you. Now, you are the only person in the world who has proven this to your clients. Have you ever done the conductivity test and you've seen the result, and then you have planted the vineyard, and is the result 50%, 80%, or 100% to what you expect?
To me, there are two important things. You know, when you get the map, one thing is a map. You know, a map is something very simple, so you can get the electroconductivity. And I remember, that was a great history. Back in 2011, we did a technical trip with Rodrigo Soto, who you know very well, who is, hello, Rodrigo, and Alan York as well, and Mike Bensinger. So we spent like, I don't know, 10 days in between Burgundy and the Rhone and Bordeaux. And then we were in a very famous chateau in Bordeaux. And the technical director, you know, very classy, very Bordeaux guy, told me, you know, the electroconductivity is horrible. I mean, it's useless. We did it and it never worked very well. And I'd say, how is this possible? I mean, it's not my experience. So I asked him, how many pits you did to interpret the electroconductivity? And the guy told me, no, we never did a pit. So, you know, it's like to have the radiography in the hospital, but you don't visit the doctor. Of course, you don't connect the energy that the lecturer is giving to you to the soil and to the wine. It doesn't work. So to have the electroconductivity map is one step, but it's the first step. Then the thing, you know, also a very dear friend of mine, I work a lot with him, very important in my career, is Alberto Antonini. So I think with Alberto, we consult together in the last 10 years, you know, maybe 75% of my clients are clients of Alberto. So we work very closely. So Alberto, who is more, you know, he has like statistic of the results of what we're doing, you know. And if you ask Alberto, he'll say to you that 75% of the cases, what we're doing brings the best wine of the winery. So it's very, if you are stoning and if you work with good people, if you do this methodology properly, you get results. You know, it's the in US use a word that is not in Spanish word, and I'm a very big New York Knicks fans, which is very stupid for everybody, but not to me for now 30 years. And this year we're doing so well. And the word that always the technical director, you know, Tom Thibodeau is saying is that I'm bringing accountability. And accountability, I think, is what Alberto and I as a consultant should bring to our clients. You know, I mean, if you hire a consultant with no results, better don't get it, you know.
Yeah. Would you like to describe in a way how you have broken down the book, and also, you know, what is the, you know, I mean, just the format, like, you know, the book is full of stories and wonderful, you know, other people have contributed, you know, and you kind of interpreted their language. What do you want the reader to know about the way the book is laid out?
I think that was the most difficult part for me when I was writing the book, is to get coherence, you know. And I also always was thinking on a movie, so trying to like a script, you know. So I sometimes I like to travel on time, you know, and people may get lost if I am in 2020 or I am in 2010. But to me, the one question that many people ask me when I work and I travel is how you get the experience to become a guy who connects soil and wine. You know, that is the question, because I think it's a difficult part to do. And that was a great advice from a friend of mine, Marcelo Retamal, which is a great Chilean winemaker. And he was my first client back in 2004. And I remember we were, again, very young, and Alberto and Marcelo told me, you know, if you want to be good doing that, remember, it's not about the soil, it's about the wine. So go and learn how to taste. So I start to invest 5% of what I was gaining as a consultant every month to buying wines. And my wife was always every Monday bringing some wines to connect my palate. You know, my palate is the most important part of my work. And so is what was difficult to me is, for the reader, I need the reader first to know me. You know, I need, Marcelo, how are you? I need the guy to know me, not as a science PhD guy, because science is very square, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. And wine is never 2 + 2 is 4, it's never. So I learned doing my PhD that I cannot trust the numbers, you know, and I have seen that all my life, you know. PhD is 8.6, you should avoid planting because it's going to be toxic. And then you go to Barolo and it's 8.8 and it's not toxic, it's the best Barolo you can buy. So numbers are so tricky, and you get misinterpretation and confusion, and I hate the numbers at the first approach. I need the numbers at the second approach. And so when people ask me how you get to understand the holisticity of the terroir, to connect that, I would say, because my brain is a movie musician brain. You know, I'm not mathematician. So I am more in the artistic brain, you know, that I get from my father and my mother. And that's bring you to something that I think is essential. It's called imagination. That one of my wines is called Imaginador. It's because of if you don't get imagination, you don't move on wine, you know, because wine is about not having fear and have imagination to do things, you know. That's why sometimes many of the wines that you like to drink are not made by winemakers. That is the thing, because people that is not winemaker, like you are sommelier, and I am not a winemaker as well. we are, because we don't know the numbers, we are not afraid of a mistake that the numbers going to, and I remember always Beppe Rinaldi is a veterinarian.
Yeah.
And Gianfranco Soldera is the same. He was not a winemaker, and go on. So I think to answer your question, I put the book first in a position where the readers know me, and then because they know me, they're traveling with me on time, and at the end, I want, like the Godfather movie. The end should be high, and the end with my clients that are my friends. At the end of the day, that was is a highlight, because always, people, I don't know how many sommeliers in the world have the chance that you have in the past to travel often to Burgundy and drink and connect with people. It's a very close world, and always friend of mine in different countries told me, so you work with Commander G, what they're like, and I say, no, they're two guys, they do caca like me and you, we are humans, so they're like that. But if you can, in the book, if you can provide some secrets, some internal conversations that happens for everybody of the people who is highlighting the book, I think is a plus. It's a plus for every sommelier, every importer, because sometimes, Raj, conversation get very superficial,
Yeah.
And that's, I always remember, people said, and I put in the book, is this wine Kimmeridgian geological wine or not? If it's not, I won't buy it. What means that? I mean, are you from India? If you're not from India, I won't talk to you, Raj. I mean, we cannot be that generic. We need to, if we are professional, we need to be way more precise in what we say.
No, it's very interesting because, in your discussions with, I've seen you talk to other people. I've been with at Commander G at the winery of the vineyard, which is for me one of the most unique vineyards on the planet. But you have to tell these amazing, to tell Jean-Marc Rouleau that he needs to change something or take a part out of the vineyard. It's not easy because, someone who's made wine for that long and has a reputation, and has making great wine and has asked you to tell him what's wrong with my vineyard, which is not easy thing. But have you ever been in a position like Jamie Good had an interesting question? How would you say the different soil states? There are some soils that are more white wine and other more red wine. So have you found something like that to change the grape variety or change something else to,
Yeah. You get, again, it's not in a book. Nobody has wrote that in a book. So there is no experience, and the only way to get a view is to be able to travel a lot. If you travel and you see and you taste and you talk, you get, and it's about time, experience. But I remember once, one famous consultant said, basic soils are for red and acid soils are for white. That's a famous, you can do a t-shirt with that,
Yes.
I think we should do a t-shirt with that. So if this is true, we should to put out the whole granite and schist of the world and basalt, and we only do limestone. So I think it's wrong. I think it's not right. But then, of course, you have that's depend a lot on the nature and the genetic of each grape. Some grapes need space to grow because they're vigorous. They need some fertility, like Nebbiolo. The first time I was in Barolo, I was looking at the vigor on the vines, and then, wow, what is this? It's like a forest. And I said, how can you make great wines with that kind of vigor? And then working on Barolo, I understood the why. Cabernet Franc is similar. Cabernet Franc needs to express. Some other grapes like Grenache, like Carignan, like Cinsault, it's a different family. That kind of family, if you put then those families in a deep soil, you are done. It's finished. There's no way. The other day, I was discussing about Senso and how there was a seminar, a seminar for Holland, and so we were discussing Swarland and Itata Senso. And Senso is a difficult grade because it's 1,000,000% terroir oriented. You put it in a deep soil and it's horrible, it's undrinkable, because it's going to dilute, it's going to produce too much, it's going to lose completely the color. And this is the experience that people get because Senso is mostly planted in deep alluvial soils in the southern Rhone. Of course, it will never work. It cannot work because the genetic of the Senso cannot match this kind of terroir. But what happens if you take the Senso and you put that same Senso in a 90% stony terroir, so almost no soil? And then you get a monster, a fantastic wine. So of course, you need to know where to go. That is the difficult part. It's similar for Carignan, how God is so similar for Grenache, when you think, and I remember talking with Danny and Fer in Commando G, they always dream of Rayas, Rayas. Rayas is planted in something that is called le Safre. And le Safre is sand, basically, aeolic sand with touch of limestone, So very poor soil, extremely poor soil. So it's like Garnacha in Commando G. It's planted on very, very, very eroded.
I can tell you a story on that wine.
Yeah.
In 2013, I think 12, maybe 13. I was in Seattle doing a blind tasting, and somebody brought a bottle of Rombo Norte 2010 in the old label.
Yeah.
Blind. And there are many people there. Comes to me, I'm like, this is Pinion. It has to be Pinion. Can't be anything else. Yeah. No chance of anything else. And I remember of course, when the wine came out, what the hell is this? Yeah. I'd never heard of, Danny or Fern, and I was like, what is this? And I went to try to find the bottle. I found a few bottles, but it was very hard. But then when you go to the vineyard, and it's the opposite. Rayas is like a red sand in a forest. This is also forest, and you see this looks like Flintstone, but yeah. Amazing. It's incredible how different everything is, but the wine has such a similarity.
Those wines are brothers in the mother, if you want, because they're dominated by sand, and that is so. I always say to my clients, it's like when you see today playing the Lakers, that is dominated by LeBron James. So that is the guy. And then you have 4 other guys. When you are drinking a wine from Von Romanet, you have that the clay, the iron on the clay and the quality in the clay is essential for Von Romanet. It's the heart of, it's domination of the thing, But then you move to Chambol and you are in the Amoureuse, and then you know that even if you get the clay in the Chambol, but it's 15 centimeters, it's nothing, is this is the clay in Chambol. Finish. Then you go to the rock. So Chambol is dominated by the rock, not by the clay. Beaune is dominated by the clay. Then Commando G is dominated in general by the sand. My wines are dominated by the sand. And some wines, the Barolo that we're going to try later, is dominated by the silt. So you always need to keep in mind who is the boss in your side. And then you say, okay, LeBron is playing, but then is also Anthony Davis playing. And it's very important as well. Say, you are right. They play together very well. So you say, okay, again, is Grenache, is sand, but it's dominated by sand. And then who is the Anthony Davis? Is the quartz. Great. And then you go and say, okay, but there is also this other guy. And so this is how you break down, a terroir. And that is the way, and some terroirs are dominated by iron. Yeah. Some terroirs are dominated by the absence of iron. So you need to, that is what you get when you get old, You can name the one thing that for you is important in the wine typicity. And then you go down from, and finally you get many parameters, but you need the one first parameter.
I think we're gonna taste and talk about that, because I think there are many questions here about, you know, the soil, how suitable to what grapes, and I think we'll talk more. We'll taste the wines, but before because I think our time for the first part of the discussion is over.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of questions about where the book is available.
That is the difficult part.
I don't know the answer. I'm asking you. You can tell everybody, and then we can be, yeah.
So the first version of the book is 4,000 copies, totally. 3,000 in English, 1,000 in Spanish. The English copies are for US and Canada, basically. And you can find out in the web page of one of my most funny and great clients. It's Rose and Arrow but in Oregon, but you need to go to the site, and the site is Elite, you know. So the name is Elite Wines. It's Elite Wines, and then you go to Elite Wines and you will find the book, and then they will send the book, you know, in US, and now I think in Canada. And then in Spain it's sold out. So some people got the book, and then the other people know. I'm working in a second edition. In Argentina, it's going to Argentina through, it's going to be my importer, El Garage de Aldo. Aldo Graciani is in Peru through my importer as well, some copies. Diego, and then in Chile you can buy through my distributor in Santiago, which is Alan Grutsky. But it's almost sold out. I think there are like 20 copies remaining in Chile. So I'm working in a second edition, but mostly for Europe, you know, because it's going to be available in Europe through my importers. David Gleave in Liberty Wines, or in Mostue in Norway, or Kim Villa in Spain, Barrère and Cap de Ville in France, and I don't remember that. I should set up a website with, you know, where to find the book. I'm not good on that.
Cool. One interesting question, which I also had, and Arvid is asking, Arvid Rosengren, he says—
Arvid was one of the first guys who really, I think, understood my wines. I remember that in New York, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. That clever guy.
He says, is it possible to generalize in regards to plowing, tilling the soils, and how we can expect it to influence soil expression? Are there soil compositions that are more suited to no-till farming methods, for example?
Yeah, of course. I mean, remember, every soil has a genetic. The genetic is the mother. So one thing is to have this limestone, or this other limestone, or this schist, or this other schist, okay? And this mother is going to have babies, and the babies is going to be the soil. So the soil is what you get from the rock. So, but every mother has a different components in terms of mineral. So one of the most ridiculous, stupid things that you get is that it's like everybody's working the soil in the same way, like copy paste. So why are you doing that? You are from a limestone with clay, and I am from a granite with sand. So what? And the problem is that you can see, you know, viticulturists spending money, because this is very, very expensive, you know, working the soil, you know, with machines and everything. And you can go up to thousands of dollars, and what you're doing is not improving the soil, you are destroying the soil. So that's why Alan York was a genius, because he understood that. If you understand the point number one, the genetic, then you follow. And it's so easy to follow them, you know, but you need to know your terroir to decide how to work your soil. That is the essential. When you understand what you get, then say, okay, so maybe my problem, I'm thinking, you know, I am a granite. So my problem is not porosity, because granite are made of porosity, you know, is the essence of the granite. So why I am spending that amount of money to break the soil with a machine to create porosity, if I am already 1 million porosity high? So I'm paying huge amount of money, you know, or you're using the same machine, you know, a big, you know, machine that goes down, fracturing the rocks. I mean, can you imagine if you go down in Chambol-Musigny, Amoureuse, and you fracture the limestone, it's finished. No more Amoureuse. So if somebody get the idea that I will put, a D9 or a D10 machine, big machine, in that vineyard to fracture that limestone, yeah, okay, great. You're going to do it, and you're going to ruin your terroir, because that terroir is made of the nature of the fractures that you get. It's like putting somebody to eat hamburgers the whole day. So we're trying to improve you. So eat hamburgers. So basically, the question is a very good question. If you don't know who you are, don't spend money working the soil in a copy-paste way. That is the thing. First, you need to understand.
Yeah, and another interesting point, which and after that we have to move on to taste the wine, is what is the influence of irrigation?
This is for a book, because it's a strong. I remember. So first, back in 2008, I remember I was invited to a seminar in Bordeaux. And when it was my time to talk, one of the Bordeaux guys who was very arrogant, I remember, said, "What, Pedro, how can you talk about terroir if you irrigate, And then I answered back, how can you talk about terroir if you put all the water out of Medoc? Medoc means medius aquos.
Yeah.
So everybody knows that Medoc is full of water. And they made drains. They bring people from Holland to drain out the water.
Yeah.
So which one is a bigger interference on the terroir? Adding water or putting out water? It's the same thing, Okay. So French can be French sometimes. And so irrigation, it's a very difficult topic, because it's depend how, when, how much, and to understand that, you need to, again, know your terroir. How much water, where, how deep, how often, that is the question. So can you emulate a rain? I think no. Can you do something clever? Yes. Do the wines change in typicity if you irrigate? I would say if you irrigate badly, of course, that you're having, because the problem is that every time you irrigate, many people irrigate once per week. What you're doing is you're growing your McDonald's
Sideways.
Yeah, sideways. Yeah, and sideways, and then you are getting all the energy of the hamburger, that you get in the superficial part, and you are not allowing the rock and the rest, the P2 Roca restaurant to express.
Yeah.
So that's what happens, maybe 80% of the time when people irrigate, because they like to irrigate once a week or every 2 weeks, But then there is another ways to irrigate. But to be able to do that, you need to design your system to do that. And what happened when people plant a vineyard? The first thing that they do is they design. And then I ask, why you did that? Because you have 4 different soils and you're doing the same irrigation for the 4 different soils. And then they say to me, because I didn't knew that I had 4 different soils. So the good thing is that if you know first that you have 4 or 5 different soils, you adjust your irrigation system to that situation. Yeah. And then, because you know your terroir, you will be able to irrigate in a way clever way. Yeah. And that is the solution, but very few people are doing that.
Pedro, we have to start our own podcast, because I think that there's so many questions here I cannot even answer.
We should do that.
Oh,
now in COVID,
Yeah, we can do what do you say? Para and par. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. It's similar, eh?
Yeah. It'll be fun. But I think we have some special guests who are also going to come on this. We have, so I think maybe we should start tasting and talking about the rocks because of the soil, because that is many questions on that. Instead of asking it without tasting, I know that some people have some of these wines, some of you don't. I'm sorry, there's so many questions. I want to answer them, but Pedro wants to answer them. It's just a lot. So we will get to some of them in the conversation with the wines. But let's. So Pedro, should we start tasting with the?
Well, the Alto Las Hormigas Malbec.
Yeah. So tell us the origination of how you found limestone.
Okay, so I would say Alto Las Hormigas is a project that changed my life. Maybe, you know, with when I was saying that I learned so much with Louis Michel, you know, only looking at Louis Michel, I would say I learned so much being part of Alto Las Hormigas, because Alto Las Hormigas is a project from Argentina that is made from Tuscany winemakers, and Antonio Moriscalchi, who is not a winemaker but is the crazy guy, the founder of the project, and they started that project maybe 22 years ago or 21, I don't remember anymore, in Argentina, trying to they fell in love, you know, with this artisanal side of Mendoza. Mendoza is beautiful. It's a great city, and it's a great wine city. And there is this artisanal side of the producers. And so they were pioneering, because they were working with Malbec when everybody was thinking that Malbec was a bad grape. You know, everybody was focused on Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon at that time. And they were very clever, pioneering. They were always keeping, you know, that working in that Italian way with two wines, one wine that was the basic, and then the Riserva, like the Italian guys. And in front of that project was Tilio Pagli, who is a great winemaker from Tuscany, and my friend Alberto Antonini. And Alberto invited me to participate in Alto Las Hormigas in 2007, maybe, I think. And I remember I have a conversation. That was the same conversation I had with Louis Michel Javeler in Oregon later, you know. It was a copy-paste conversation, in fact. Alberto told me, Malbec is great, Argentina is great, but the wines are boring. And I am bored to produce that. You know, this bomb fruit, this kind of wines, I cannot drink that anymore. You know, and Alberto, who used to work a lot with Gianfranco Soldera in Tuscany, in Montalcino in the beginning, you know, that's funny, because Alberto, being born in Tuscany, he was born on limestone. So when you're born in something, you don't know how to express that. You know, it's like Alberto was saying, we need the wine to be better. And what he was saying is, please find me limestone, or find me granite, find me something special. And we start this very ambitious project back in 2008 that was, we call it, you know, the Terroir project. And we start to dig all around Mendoza. You know, we were using technology, and we were very lucky, because Alberto was consultant for many 20 wineries, and I was consultant maybe for 10. So we have a huge amount of information and pits and everything. And then one day, because we were not able to find the limestone, you know, one day we were discussing with Alberto, and we decided to do the opposite. Let's buy a lot of Malbec. and we got, like, you know, 100 bottles in the winery, and we start to taste, and it was like always in the palate, no. And then one of the Malbecs was this kind of tannins that, you know, that is something there is an energy there, and that was the chalky side of that Malbec. And I remember Alberto immediately told me, this is the vineyard that we need, you know. And that was limestone, pure limestone. So the next day we visit that vineyard, we dig, and the limestone was like you're like mining going out, you know. So we found that limestone back, I think, in 2010. And then, you know, if there is one pit with limestone, there are more. I mean, the limestone is not flying, so you know that you need to follow something. And then we spent maybe 3-4 years trying to understand the movement of the limestone in Mendoza. Again, working with more clients, we were able to really start mapping, you know, the limestone, following the mining of the shapes of the limestone. And then I think we became the limestone specialists of Malbec. And the things that, okay, you got the limestone, then you need to know what to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how you farm the limestone, how you vinify the limestone, how you change the viticulture, because the vertical turn that you have in limestone is not the same that in the deep soil. So that was a lot of experience, mistakes, brainstorming moments, with the whole team. And that was super fun. That was one of my great adventures. We found the limestone, and many people told me we knew that there was limestone in Argentina. Of course, limestone is reported 100 years ago in the geology, but nobody was using that.
Does it matter? I'm sure it matters, but to what extent the age of the limestone or the formation of the limestone, or how hard or soft, or if there's any kind of metamorphic
movement there. I would say so. The age, in my experience, no. The age, that's Gualtieri Altos. So if you look on the limestone in Europe, many of the limestone that you get in Europe are very young in terms of geology. There are some very old, but you get very young lime, but all is super young, like, I don't know, 10 million years ago. 10 million years ago is yesterday in terms of geology. The limes that you get in Gualtieri for this wine, or Altamira, the two great places in Argentina with limestone, those are very young, because they were movement from the rivers, from the high ends of the Andes mountain range. So it's very young. But what is important to know in terms of age is that very old rocks, they're always together. Huh? Granites and schist are very old, very, very old, 200, 300 million years ago. Limestone, I would say, is way more young in general. I'm talking in a general way. So this is a very young limestone. It's made of gravels, completely surrounded by limestone. And these soils in Gualtieri are about 90% stony. So it's very stony. And then remember the conversation about LeBron James and Anthony Davis?
Yeah.
So this is limestone and sand.
Mm.
Okay. So when you get that, you get very high drainage, lower water holding capacity. So again, conversation about irrigation. If you want to irrigate a lot in Gualtieri, it doesn't matter, because the water goes out fast. So it's against vertical trees. If you want if you understand what I'm saying, you can irrigate a lot and it won't change a lot, because the water is going to go out so deep, so fast. So the vigor is always controlled, and because you get this combination of sand and limestone, you get something that to me is similar to Serralunga in Barolo. Serralunga, again, in two words, is in general is sand and limestone. Okay, that's why you get these tannins that is like a knife. Gualtieri is the same thing. Gualtieri is a knife.
Great. No, that's a really, really good comparison, because I've never been to Mendoza, so I would have, yeah. No, because you don't necessarily, for me, you don't think of Malbec or even Cabernet Sauvignon, for example, on limestone, gives you so many edges. It's like it's like straight but with edges, like a sharp rocket coming towards you. And I've never had a Malbec like this with precision. You have the saltiness on the finish, and you have enough tannin, not too much. And you don't have the big fruit you usually expect from Mendoza.
We kill the fruit in some way, because, again, because it's Italian culture behind, we don't use barrels. We only use, Fudre, Italian Fudre. And the wines are done in a way that the wines really are made in a reductive way. We never expose the wines to oxygen, because you give to Malbec some oxygens, and then wow, the fruit goes out. And to me, one problem that happens with Malbec is that the fruit is so impressive that you don't get the other things. So that wine, we want the wine to have a lower amount of fruits to be able to talk about the tannins. And the difficult part is that for many people, and mostly many of the serious sommeliers in the world, Malbec is an easygoing by the glass wine. And I don't care who is producing that wine because it's easygoing. So we don't care. It's just a Malbec from Argentina. So in the beginning, this wine is distributed in New York by the Skornik family since the beginning, 20 years ago. So every time that we were with Antonio or Alberto trying to sell the wines, it was difficult because nobody wanted a Malbec, because we already have one Malbec, and try to explain people that this is not Malbec, this is limestone. So we are not doing a Malbec wine, we're doing a limestone wine first, you know. And it took some time, I would say some years to get this transformation. But Alto Las Hormigas is a wine with high reputation in US, very high reputation, I would say. And we are very, very happy with the wine. You know, this is, we only produce, it's a small vineyard. That vineyard is separated into 3 different, you know, amount of limestones. And then we blend that, and the wine is another energy, it's another expression of Argentina. The big problem, Raj, is that in my cartography, that may be wrong, but I think that no more than 4% of Mendoza is limestone. So that's make that the limestone boundaries are really, you know, in some places.
I was supposed to go with Paz last year, it didn't happen. Someday. Okay, we have to keep moving to the next wine, because here we have Danny, I think, on standby. Danny, you can turn your volume up. And let's get Danny on the screen here. And I think Fernando is also, they're the two, the best. The best.
Hello, Pedro, all the hidden friends. Hello.
Yeah, this is if you guys don't know, these two guys are amazing people, but they make some of the most compelling wine in the world, and they have searched everywhere in their region near Madrid in Sierra de Gredos to find the most unique and the best Grenache vineyards, which most people didn't know existed until they started. And for me, knowing them and visiting them and drinking wine with them, there's no more two most biggest wine lovers of all the wines which matter, you know, wines which are real wines, authentic wines. And I always believe that people who believe in the truth in wine also produce the most truthful wines. And this is one of them. I'm sorry if you don't have this bottle. It's a very, very small production. I am so grateful to be drinking this and to see your face. You can maybe talk about your estate, the vineyard, the philosophy, and then Pedro can come in and talk about, because I was there for the soil pit. That was the greatest party of my life. And
Great party.
Yes, the best.
What's the question?
The question is just, you have to tell us about where you are, who you are, and what you make.
Yeah. Well, hi everybody. It's so happy to see you so far. No? We are Comando G, and mainly the G is from Granite, Gredos, and Grenache. So that's the meaning of where we are. No, we are in Gredos. We are in a mountain range close to Madrid, in the center of Spain, where we have mainly mountain, high altitude, amazing soils, and really old vineyards of Grenache. And our philosophy is try to make a landscape wines, no? Finally, minerality in a bottle. So for us, it's our dream. Since the beginning, we are really wine lovers, and we love the nature, we love the mountain, we love the vineyards, we love wine. We were, like Pedro says, for us, Burgundy was the place where we find the minerality, no, the clue, this kind of strange word that we were looking in our first nights, drinking, listen music, drinking so much sometimes. I listen to music not enough because we need to improve. And that's our dream, no? Mainly we are friends trying to make a way of life. It's not a business plan or anything. It's just joy and just passion and just one day or the other. This is our philosophy. And Danny, continue. I can drink.
Yeah, well, the most important thing is friendship here and respect. And we are a team with different characters. Pedro said Jin and Jan, but here different characters with the same dreams and same passion, and we building together the house. And one of us is the concrete and the other is the brick, and we make each other better, and that's the important thing. And Gredos, talking about our place, Gredos is magic. We born not far away from the mountains, and we feel like a part of these mountains, this place, abandoned in time, granite everywhere, not limestone here, sorry about that. And very old vines in traditional way, Gobelet, Grenache, high altitude. That's our place. And like Pedro showed us, is granite is about quartz. Quartz is about that energy, minerality, and sandy and silt. That's the story of Gredos Terroir. No clay at all, and no iron here. That's the thing. Maybe, well, I remember when Pedro said one time bisexual soils in terms of
maybe winemakers.
No, Gredos is granite with this energy, electricity energy, but with a calcaire touch that give us the silt, the medium palate, the length, the finesse, the chalky dryness at the end of the palate. That's maybe Gredos. Altitude, high, very old vineyards of Grenache.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you guys? Happy to have you here. You know, I remember Raj was saying that, you know, maybe the best party of my life was the fiesta that we attended maybe 2 years ago. And that was, you know, epic, I would say. And I hope it's going to happen again in my life, you know. And the group that was there that day was atomic. But I would say that, you know, Commando G has been, to me, is very important as well, and very important because I learned from those two guys a lot. I always, you know, I'm a person that talks a lot, but when I am in learning mode, I'm not talking, I'm listening, like an eponge, you know, learning. So, and I learned from them a lot, especially for my wines in Itata, you know. And I remember one day, the difficult part to work with Commando G is that after work, you go dinner and then you drink like hell, you know. And the guys are 10 years younger than me. So every time, you know, we are a bunch of people around and bottles of old Rioja and Burgundy and Ribera Sacra, and I don't know, from so many places. So at one moment that you go sleep at 4 a.m. and you need to be in the pit at 9 a.m. That is something that. So when I start my European tour and I start with Commando G, then my next client should put me out because I'm destroyed, you know, completely destroyed. But something that I'm what always has been so inspiring to me is that being two guys at 40 years old, they are so mature to understand how to make this wine, because the wine is exquisite. Not only Rumbo Norte, but all the wines are, to me, are the #1 reference in Grenache in the world today. And but it's so difficult to do that. I mean, how you get this Burgundian elegance you know, in the flavors, in the palate, this elegant minerality, long palate, freshness in a place with sound, you know. So I mean, you need to be really very connected with your site, with who you are, to get inspired. And I know they both get inspired by Chateau Rayas. I know that very, very much. And they figured out the way to, it's like a chef, you know, you need to cook, and they know how to cook the wines. Every year they learn, and looking them, you know, working the granite, I knew how to work my granites, you know, because I was one difficult part of my education is that I am too French in terms of wine because of my education and everything. And then the another Rhone was not the answer to me for what granite was in terms of expression. And Burgundy, I was always looking for Burgundy because it's what I like to drink. But I remember one day, one night or one morning, I don't remember anymore. We were together drinking wines, and then one of you guys, I don't remember which one, told me something so clever that, why, Pedro, are you unifying your wines like Burgundy? Burgundy is made of clay, and you don't have clay. And it's so, that was so simple. Like, yeah, I know I don't have clay, and at the same time, it was so deep. What I was trying to applying Burgundy, you know, control of temperature, going up in temperature to extract, if I don't have clay. I mean, that was so stupid of me, you know, doing that. I like, and then that day when Fernando or Daniel both told me that, I said, what an asshole I am, you know, what I'm doing. And I changed immediately the way I started to make the wines, and the change to me has been amazing. I mean, the wines in my winery, I'm so happy because what I learned from those guys changed completely my wines. And I get paid to consult, you know, and I get paid from them, and I learn so much from them. So, but the truth is that for the people that want to know, you know, the vineyards, the cru vineyards, are basically made of a lot of quartz. That means a lot of stones. The number one element, the LeBron James of Commando G, is quartz. The element number two, the Anthony Davis of Commando G, is the absence of clay, and this is essential because it's the way that Chateau Rayas works, and it's the way that Commando G works, is the absence of clay. And the point number three, that is also essential, is a very low amount, I won't say absence, but very low amount of iron. Normally, people get, you know, granite, and they see immediately red granite. It's like something that is very common, you know, to see these kind of red salts from granite. And when you have these red salts from granite, you get immediately, it's another typicity, it's another dimension, more strong, more big. Flavors are very reductive, and it's another animal. They can be very good, but it's not what Commando G is doing. It's not the elegance, the finesse. I used to call that the shambolic of the wines, you know.
And also the finishes, there isn't the saltiness you would get. It's the lack of saltiness, which it has this kind of sweet bitter on the finish, you know, which you see in the best red wines on granite.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm. But it's a difficult part to get that, you know, and also there is something that is very important and is difficult to have in terms of terroir. That all the terroirs, remember, are dominated by sand and by quartz, the absence of clay, and also the absence of iron. But there is another component, you know, and this component is present, is not a lot, but is essential, and is the silt. And the silt, many people always say to me, silt is so difficult in terms of terroir because you get huge compaction and these kind of situations when you have silt terroirs. But not in Barolo. And and not in Gredos and not in Itata, when you got this silty component, what you get is like a brother of saltiness. You get mid palate, you know, and then one wine without this silty component is going to be more simple. So it's sand, silt, and quartz, you know, that's going to define all the wines from the cru wines of Commander G. And then you have the movement. So Rumbo al Norte is silt, sand, and quartz. Tumba del Rey Moro is sand, silt, and quartz. Las Umbrías is sand, silt, iron, and quartz. Tamboril is sand, silt, quartz. So you get this combination of things that makes every cru fantastic. But one question that I want to ask you, because people ask me, I'm not the specialist, but they always ask me, is the whole clusters, because I know the whole clusters plays a major role in the typicity of the wine. Also, I learned from you that, and I'm using more and more in my wines because I think the result is great. But I want to know from you guys why you decided to use that, and what happens when you go to Mordor during the fermentation, and then you go back to life.
Coming back to life, yeah, Pink Floyd.
It's important coming back to life.
Coming back to life.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, we, as you said, we understand many things traveling. Sometimes you need to, for example, I remember very well when we were in Alsace and in Moselle, and we learn a lot. And the weather, the climate, the soils, everything is other world. But sometimes you need to go to the other part of the world to understand yours. And it's easy because if the weather is absolutely different, maybe you must do the opposite that they are doing. I remember very well the conversation about the clay and the way of well, making the wines with you, Pedro. One of the most presents that you give us is your friendship and your conversation. I love people with the ability to tell stories, and yeah, it's amazing these nights together, and well, it stems maybe.
I'm coming back.
Yeah,
Soon, soon, I hope.
Please,
Yeah.
please. Well, let me Raj. Let me tell you the first time when we met Pedro, at the very first time. Pedro came directly from the Madrid airport for the very first time to Gredos. He went to the pit. He went down. He touched the sand, the quartz, the soil. He smelled. We were thinking, what is fucking doing? But he was smelling. He was touching. And after 5 minutes, he described exactly the style of the wine. Of course, we were, yes, who is this fucking guy from Chile? Only 5 minutes and describe the style of the wine, only with the soil.
At that moment, we were like 7 years working that vineyard. We have a kind of idea of what is the wine. And he says, now the quartz is a little bit rough here, but it's gonna be like delicate. I say, it's Umbrías. It's not super wine. But in 5 minutes,
we are so bad. And this night it was the first night together, and we started to listen to music and compulsive and open bottles and eating and starting to I don't remember the time, but that day changed something in our life. And Pedro gave us words into our inspiration or into intuition, and now we know the reason for things, and that's one of the best presents that nobody can do it. And stems is something that we found because we understand that we are in the Mediterranean environment. We are in the south. Here, the challenge is not the ripeness, like in all the viticulture books written in Bordeaux or Burgundy, in successful areas. We are poor area in the south, and here the challenge is the freshness, the acidity. And all our work in the fields are focused in that, and of course in the cellar as well. And bon appetit.
Enjoy.
And that's the thing for us. We are looking for freshness, sense of place wines, minerality, deepness, and elegance. But if you need freshness, feeling, you need, in our opinion, work with the stems. Of course, we pick up the grapes in a crunchy, croquant moment. It's not. It's absolutely green stems like kiwis. Then you need to.
What's amazing is always for me is that, and I mean, I like wines that are that color, the translucent, it's like the greatest old wines I've had have always been totally see-through. It's nothing opaque, but the wine has the density and the concentration and has every vintage. This is a wine which is among the greatest wines in the world. And when you go there, when you walk in the vineyard, I mean, you can tell. It's like, it's magic. So thank you for taking me there twice. I've been there twice now to the vineyard. It's complete magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Come again, Raj.
Yeah, about that one.
Rumbo al Norte is a Pink Floyd vineyard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. We're going to move on. We have 3 more wines, but I hope to see you both. I will try to come after the harvest now, maybe. So.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Raj.
Thank
Thank you.
You stay connected, huh?
Yeah, no. We are going to
dinner.
No, we have Andy Rouleau. We have more here. Yeah, we have more wines.
We'll stay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Adios. Thank you.
Okay, Pedro. Now we are in a wine which I don't know. So I know the area. I know it's a very special area. I was just there in Moon Mountain a few days ago, and it's very special. And you can tell us your how you found and what makes this special in this context.
So that is so it's the Hamel family wines in Sonoma. And I will be 1,000,000% honest, with you and the people that is listening to that. One day I got an email from one guy called John Hamel saying, I'm from Sonoma and I'm very interested in that, blah, 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 blah. And at that time of my life, I was fully concentrated on working or trying to work in Europe. My oldest son lives in Lyon. I wanted to travel to see my son and then my friends and love to drink champagne and everything. So I was not working in California at that moment in Sonoma, and I knew very, very few people. That is the truth. But always the wines that I got from Sonoma and Napa were wines so fruity that remind me Mendoza as well, you know, and Cabernet Sauvignon, and that I was not in that music, you know. I was in another. And then I got John Hamill. I remember we did a Skype, and the guy was very calm, you know, and was saying to me, "We want to do something that is not what we do here, you know. His father George and John and his brother as well, they were very inspired by the ones from with Grenache as well. so so they were very open mind, and they were challenging to me, you know, and said, okay, let's see what happened, you know. To be honest, I was not very convinced, you know. With my idea in terms of geology and terroir in the corner was that is difficult. You have too many volcanic rocks around, and volcanic rocks are difficult. Rhyolite, which is a very well spread rock around, is a rock that is very difficult for get very high quality wines, and so. But again, I was at that moment I was working a lot with Mark Charloff and Louis Michel and Felipe Ramirez in Oregon, and I was in love with basalt. That I was really in love with basalt because that was a rock that was new to me, very similar in many ways to schist, dominated by stones and iron, and say, wow, that's let's see what happened in Hamel in Sonoma, because I know that there are basalt because of my experience with Rodrigo Soto in the past. In 2000, I worked with Rodrigo and Mike Bensinger and Alan York, maybe back in 2008. I don't remember anymore very well. And then I arrived to Sonoma. We tried the wines, and that again, you know, your palate tell immediately. You know, the wine, that was the minerality there. Immediately, wine number one, poof, mineral tension. And I would say that the interpretation of the wine was at the moment medium Californian, a lot of oak, well integrated, but too much for me, a little ripe to me, and but that is not a problem. It's like to tune the music, you know, you change that. I mean, if you don't have terroir, you do nothing. If you have terroir and your music is different, you can change in 1 year. That is the great on wine, you know, how to interpret things. And I remember we went to that vineyard, Nance Canyon. We started to walk up, you know, that was very steep. And the pit number one was the best Oregon, but in Sonoma. I said, what? So that was really, really, really fucking great, you know, that the amount of stones, the fractures, the iron, but a touch of iron, not that much iron, you know. My only concern was the grape, because the grape planted there was Cabernet Sauvignon. So Cabernet Sauvignon with basalt, that much, so stony, the match, I don't know if it's going to work. For sure, Carignan, Grenache, that would be, it's evident it's going to work. But Cabernet Sauvignon, and then I don't remember well, but maybe that was 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And John is very organized and is very open-minded. So he was really open-minded in terms of what we were together seeing in the vineyard. And he decided to make big changes. You know, that is difficult to make, because he decided to change. He was working with a winemaker consultant that was doing, you know, what Napa does in terms of typicity, and he decided to look for another expression, you know, again, towards the elegance and the grip and the finesse of the minerality. And then year after year, we were exploring. We do have a good amount of acres with different expression of the basalt. And now we are about to launch this wine. And this wine is something that makes me proud. It's a wine that I like to drink. It's not heavy Cabernet. It's driven by texture and minerality. It's no oaky anymore. It's the finesse, you know. And the Hamel are really low profile. So Not many people, know them around the world because it's a new project. Maybe they are doing that for 10 or 15 years. But the things that the last day I was there, we did a blind tasting with the great Cabernet from Napa. And that was great because that was Alberto Antonini who's working with them. They work with a biodynamic consultant, a French woman that is kind of crazy as well, and like an Alan York woman version, very interesting woman, who is married with the technical director of Ponte Canet, who was that day as well. So that was two French, one Italian, myself, and the family in that tasting, and that wine was top 3 of the flight, and that was a flight with 10 wines, with serious expensive wine from Napa, $500 to $1,000, and that was driven by tension, finesse, minerality, and my sensei, my feeling is that we are in the beginning of something. We are in the beginning, because I still think that the great expression of that stony Sonoma basalt terroir is not through Cabernet Sauvignon, it's through Mediterranean grapes. So to me, that is the future of the thing, But why it was important to me? It was important because it makes me think that you can find great terroir in California. That is the thing, that opened my mind. That was like a lecture to me, because I was not convinced, and now I know that you can find out, and you can interpret that to make something different. I remember always, again, learning from Louis Michel, drinkability. Drinkability. I want to drink the wine, and this basalt Cabernet is the elegance with the drinkability. In terms of terroir, I would say, like Oregon, if you have 100 acres, the stony part of the basalt is going to be 15 acres. That makes you, 50%, 15% success. So that's why volcanic rocks are difficult, because if you have a property, let's say again, we are back to Jean-Marc, 100% of Jean-Marc is limestone. There's no way there's no limestone. Only 15% of Hamel is stony basalt. So you still have 85% are something that is more based on soil, So that's why it's more difficult. The next point is that volcanic rocks are complicated because they are made of clay always, and you don't get the best clay in the basalt. So normally I say to my clients, clay is like chocolate, but you can have $1 chocolate, or you can have Pierre Marcolini $200 chocolate. It's not the same thing, So when people say this is clay, it means nothing to me, because you can have great clay like Von Romanet or Chambord or Petrus, or you can have horrible clay like some places in California, Sonoma, Chile, or Argentina. So, and it's the same word, And that's when we do basalt, we need to know that we need to minimize the clay. It's the only way to have finesse, because if we let the clay dominate the wine, we are out. And the only way to minimize the clay is through the rock, the maximize of the rock, So that's why we look for 20 centimeters of soil, 30 centimeters of soil, and then straight down the mother rock. And then you can have different kind of fractures. The basalt is more friable, the basalt is more hard. I don't care. That is about the typicity of the wine. You are going to have these different lieux-dits or different cru, But the fact that we don't maximize the clay makes the wine to be able to be drinkable. And the presence of basalt is going to make the wine with tension, with grip, and with minerality. So that is the essence of what we are working with John for now for 5 years. We are planting Grenache, so that's going to be the future, of course. But and again, when you are working with finesse, you need to be careful in every step of what you're doing, you know. And when you're working with finesse, you cannot go 100% new barrel because you're losing everything. You're going to another liquid, and that is the real thing, you know. So
really good, really beautiful wine. Typical.
what do you think of the wine,
Oh,
Rush?
it's amazing. No, it's typical of variety. It's finesse. It's very nice tannins, but silky tannins. Good density. Yeah, exactly. A wine you want to drink. You are lucky. I have to go prune right now, so I can't drink yet. But tonight, it's gonna happen. But the wine is terrific. I look forward to maybe having a previous vintage and future vintages, of course. So
this wine has not yet been bottled, so we're trying a sample, and not yet been released. So it's going to be the first year in the market. So it's going to be a new wine, you know. But it's the future. It's the future for the Hamel, I think, and it's the future for a lot of people who has the same vision that they have, you know, that drinkability, complexity, tension, you know. That is the future to me of Napa and Sonoma.
So we have two more wines, which can each take 1 hour.
Yeah, we can do that. No, you need to go pruning.
If we speak about Barolo, we can speak for hours. And then we have Jean-Marc Rouleau, who's on standby. So don't leave yet, because Jean-Marc is going to be speaking and telling us about this wine, because I'm very curious about the last wine. But let's talk about Brunate, about La Mora, about Marengo, Barolo.
Great. So Barolo is, after Burgundy, is the place that I think I love better in the world. And it's because of limestone. It's the limestone, but it's also the tartufo, the risotto, you know, the landscape is so beautiful and everything. But Barolo came very late to me in my life, you know. Like Burgundy is a difficult place because people is very close. It's not easy to go, you know. You can visit, but you never get the secrets of Barolo. That is the difficult part of Barolo. And I remember I was one night, you know, we were drinking at home with my friend Hector, who is pouring the wines, and we got this Alto Las Hormigas limestone, and we have also a Barolo, and I think it was Ettore Germano Barolo at that time. And they were very similar in the way they expressed, you know, the limestone. And I remember I said to my wife, Camila, you know, I never been in Barolo in my life. I need to go and I need to find the way to drink, understand, and find a way to work in Barolo, because I love the place and it's essential to my wine culture, you know. And then I was talking to my very dear good friend Antonio Moriscalchi about, Antonio, you are Italian, you're from Tuscany, but you know Barolo a lot, you know. Can you bring me to Barolo? And Antonio told me immediately, I have a very good friend of Barolo. You know, we used to sell the wines together with Skernik, and this is Marco Marengo, and I will talk to Marco and blah 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 blah. So maybe 2-3 months later, we were with Attilio and Antonio. We were in Barolo, and then I met Marco and Jenny. They were great, very 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 humble people. You know, low profile, and immediately we went to the winery and we tried the wines, you know. And what was great to me is that the first wine I tried, that Marco was not really, you know, like selling the wine. He was like, okay, this is like my entry level wine, and that is a wine that comes from Roero, the next mountain, and it's called Valmaggiore. And that wine to me is one of the best value in the world, you know, because the price is like $20. And you get the Barolo for 20. I mean, this Nebbiolo is atomic, and Marco makes like 300 cases, and it's gone in like, you never get the bottle, but it's atomic wine. And then we tried the Barolo, and then the Brunate. And the Brunate was my Romane Conti of Barolo, you know, that after drinking a lot of Barolo, but that was my first time in Barolo, I was trying this Brunate. And Marco was always saying to me, like, you know, I am a modernist. And to me, he was not a modernist, you know. He think like he's a modernist, but he's not. Now we convince him to buy Botti, you know, that he's buying more food for the wines. But very fast, Marco invited me to work with him, and maybe 3-4 months later, we were digging in Barolo. And I was very confused because, you know, what I was expecting is to have something like Burgundy. That means, you know, 40, 50 centimeters of soil, and then a mother rock, a limestone mother rock. And the fact that the Barolo are so tannic in terms of limestone, I was thinking that should be a very hard limestone. And then the machine was digging, and the soil was very deep, you know, digging and digging, 1 meter, 2 meters, and say, wait, where is the rock? Where is the rock? I mean, how can you do a wine that is so mineral with that tension without a rock, you know? And that day was around May, and May was humid. That means that day the soil was very humid, and the color of the soil was horrible. It was a dark green, brown color. So to me, that day was bullshit. I mean, this is a horrible terroir. So I don't understand anything, and I'm missing the point completely, or they are saying something that is incorrect, or I'm lost completely. And I felt bad because I left Barolo with that bitter sensation of I didn't like the terroir. I came back the same year in July. That was a dry year, that was a warm year, and Marco Marengo did a hole that was about 2 meters from the first hole. Same vineyard in Brunate. Only 2 months later, the machine was there, boom, 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 and then the rock immediately, you know? How is the opposite? How is this possible, you know? And then that day and the months that came later, I learned something that was very useful for my career, you know, is how silt, the part of the soil that is called silt, 80% at Brunate, 80, huge amount of silt, not clay, silt. Silt, when it's dry, transform into cement, into concrete. So in 2 months, that wet soil was transformed into a very solid concrete soil. The color was not anymore green, brown, the color was white. And that is the presence or the absence of the water in the silt component. And that's how Brunate was moving, and that's how Bricoviole was moving, you know. So that's how the weather influences the soil so much. And many people, journalists, always ask me, Pedro, what is more important, the soil or the weather? What is more important, LeBron James or Anthony Davis? You know, that you cannot separate that. You cannot separate because it's one thing. The soil reacts to the weather, and the soil is going to be in one way or in another way depending on the weather, you know. And I think I never understood that better that year with Marco and Jenny and Stefano in the vineyards, you know. And because of that, I remember I was renting a car, I was driving all around Barolo trying to understand more and more, because it's difficult. It's very close, Barolo. You don't phone, you know, don't ring in the door and say, hey, mister, can you dig a hole for me, please? You know, it's not like that. And I remember I was staying in a great hotel in Monforte. It's called La Saracca, great restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Great
A fantastic place, but weird place as well, you know, because the hotel is built in the Mother Rock in Monforte. So that means that when you're checking in and you go into your room, the wall is made of soil, of rock.
Yeah.
So, and I was, you know, like touching everything was sandy white, you know, sandy. Then I went to my room, and my room, the shower door was made in the soil. So when I was taking the shower, I took my hammer and I start to break the soil in the shower, you know, to get the sensation of that. And that was pure, very thin sand with limestone. Yeah. And then I was driving in Monforte, always seeing the same thing, and then in Serralunga, you know. And little by little, with 3-4 years of experience, I finally, to me, I classify Barolo in 4 different macro tendencies, you know. One, always limestone, like Burgundy, always limestone. But one part is dominated by silt, where you get elegance. One part is dominated by clay, where you get power. One part is dominated by marl, and marl is limestone plus clay, where you get more power. And last part is dominated by sand, where you get the knife, you know. So if you get Masolino Viñarrionda, is sandy knife, wow, you know. If you get, you know, a wine from Viledo, it's marl, it's volume, you know, it's like having a show in your mouth, like a brick in your mouth. If you get Marco La Morra Brunate, you get the elegance of the wine. So I learned that. I hope in my next 10 years I will be able to complete more information and get more and more, because I'm really passionate about Barolo and Terroir. And I one day I will be, you know, one thing that really frustrated me so much, I really wanted to meet Beppe Rinaldi, Citrico Rinaldi. And Marco, who was a friend of Rinaldi, talked to Rinaldi, say, I have my friend Pedro, he's here, he wants to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Can Pedro go there? I said, yeah, on Wednesday, for example. And then I was with my good friend Paco Leighton. We arrived in front of Rinaldi's house. And when I arrived, Rinaldi was in a big fight with the plumber, a guy who was fixing something in the house. And because it's Italy, he was like, hey, stupid, stronzo, blah, horrible, you know. And then the guy left, and Rinaldi looked at me like, who are you? What do you want? Say, hello, I'm Pedro, I come from Marco Marengo phone. You say, like that. Oh, no, it's not a good day. That's bad day. You know, I cannot talk to you today. From where are you coming? I'm coming from Chile. Say, Chile? Whoa, it's far away. No. Come here. We're going to taste the wine because you're coming from Chile. And I say to Beppe Rinaldi, no, I'm waiting for that for many years. I prefer to come back when it's a beautiful day for you, because I want this to be a beautiful day for me. And then the next year he passed away, and I will never met Beppe Rinaldi, and I love the wines, you know, and that was a lost opportunity for my life, you know. But I will be there someday. But
we should organize a little tasting and together. We can do one on Barolo. We can do one. Yeah, I think we'll talk about this. I think it'd be interesting to taste. But we should get Jean-Marc. Huh? Jean-Marc, are you still there? We have to get the atomic, the laser beam. Jean-Marc, you can turn your, unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you.
Aha.
Ça va là? Salut.
there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Excellent. Hey, good to see you.
You have the sound?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good.
All good. So
it's a nice company.
Yeah,
I was happy to see Danny and Fernando, because you know they came for the last harvest. They spent 4 or 5 days with us, working with us doing the harvest.
Amazing. I can't wait to taste the 2020 red wines.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the infusion. The infusion
Yes.
is there. Now this is pretty amazing, because I've known Jean-Marc for, I don't know, many years, maybe 20 some years now.
Yes.
And I, of course, knew Pedro separately, and then to see them together working on, I know that there's a lot of work Pedro did on Tesson, among other things, and also the first time for me to taste the 18 Tesson in bottles.
Yes.
I'm very excited. I'll let you guys talk because you have many things to share with me. I'm going to listen.
Okay.
So-
Salut.
Salut, Jean-Marc.
Salut, Pedro. Salut.
So,
Uh,
yeah, go, please go.
No, you know, I was listening Danny explaining the first time he met you, and between both of us, it's funny the way we met. You know, I was working with Françoise Vanier, and I think you were working in a university in Dijon, and she told me she wanted to introduce you to come in Meursault, and it was a very short visit. It was a Saturday morning, and I remember exactly. We made some pit in different vineyard, and we went in Méchaveau, and as a Danny and Fernando, I remember the way you were so excited to see the pit, to jump in it, and to explain us. And yes, something really happens that day, and the connection you have with the soil, the way you express your feeling, and then so this was very short. It was maybe 1 hour, I think so, and I remember the second time we met, because happily we took the time for a tasting, and I was really impressed by the way you were tasting the wine, because some soil specialists, sometimes you give them a glass of wine and they cannot express what they feel, what are they feeling, but I like the way you describe the wine very physically in the mouth, your sensation. It's the physique. It could be round, linear. You make a sensation, and you know sometimes it's too boring to speak about aromas. I'm tired about aromas, and when you taste a Thiers or a Méchaveau or something else in the winery, you have different sensation. The wine is coming in a different way in your mouth, on your tongue, in your palate, in the aftertaste, and I like very much your approach of tasting, very, very much. I like this way of tasting very much. And of course, it was very impressive to see the way you connected limestone, soil, and the wine. And so I was impressed because I never had this kind of tasting before. Voilà. That's the way we met. That's the thing I remember.
That was, I remember very well, because the first day that you're right, you know, you had to leave, and then you said, when you are coming back, please come back, you know. And I said, I'm coming back in 2 months. So 2 months later, I was there. That was very, very fast. So I knew, for the people that is listening, I knew the wines from Jean-Marc because Chardonnay is my favorite white grape by far, but difficult, because only with tension and acidity and grape, you know, and it's difficult to find that, and you don't find that easily in the world. And Jean-Marc was the number one expression to me, in my experience, to do that, because the wine is like an arrow, you know, you can kill somebody with a wine from Jean-Marc. So, but you don't find the wines. It's difficult to find the wines, and maybe with one friend here and one night here. So that day I was very, very nervous when we went down in the cellar, because that was the first time I was trying all the wines from Domaine Rouleau. And I enjoyed that moment, you know, at the maximum, because you never know if you're going to get a second chance to be there. That is something that is in the future, and nobody knows the future. And then we started, you know, to life is weird. Life makes people to meet people, you know. That is, and people that connect in the same music and dimension and everything. And so I think we connected very well, as Jean-Marc with Danny and Fernando, they connected very well as well. And so I was able to be back often. That is the truth, and I always enjoyed that. But when you translate that to the wines, because all the wines have the same typicity, that is evident. But when you are able to be there, you know, more often, and so you get connected to every side. When you know the side, when you know the vineyard, and you know the wine, you start to see the differences, and the difference can be big, It's like one father and a mother that has 10 sons. They are very much the same, but when you live with them, they can be so different, this different expression of that. And the question is, why? Is one guy making the wine, is one side, and why every son is so different, And that makes me have many questions in my mind, because again, people is very fixed and very focused on the vines, more leaves, less leaves, more green, less green, more vigor, less green, less bigger. Then when they are more advanced, they follow and they try to understand the soil, but the superficial soil. And the superficial soil is what everybody is doing, because it's less expensive, because it's more easy to interpret, and everything is split between sand, silt, clay, iron, no iron, pebbles, no pebbles. It's boring, And I know that the thing is not happening there. The real thing is happening down there. Yeah, but it's very difficult to see down there because the rock is solid. So with a machine you cannot fracture, and that's why you need two things: to have a trained palate and imagination. That is the way you get down there, And I remember maybe 1 year ago or 2 years ago, we have lunch with Jomar, we taste the wine. I was with Paul Krug. Paul was already working with me as an assistant. And after that, Paul told me, can Pedro take the car and go to the vineyards, like relax mode. I want to be in the vineyard. So we went down, and we were up there in Boucher, fantastic wine. And then when you're looking the vineyard, you see the vineyard. But if you turn yourself 180 degrees, you see the wall and the fractures, Yeah. And then this is a fantastic pit, because it's already done. And we went into and we start to hit, the rock, and we open that rock. And we open that rock, and that picture is in the book. And what you get in the rock, let's go back to the Pitu Roca restaurant, that was silt and sand, and that was not clay, So that makes a huge difference in terms of explanations, not only from Jomar, Merceau, Chassagne, Puligny, but for everything, What you get in the fracture is who you are. That is the thing. In the fracture, if you get more clay and the quality of the clay is good, you're going to have one typicity. Remember Barolo, Serralunga, La Morra, and then you got the other place with Mar, Bilero, etc. So if you get sand in the fracture, you're going to get another typicity, Serralunga, a knife. So the more silt and sand you get in the fracture, not in the soil, in the fracture, you are going to get more sharp, More clay you get, you are going to get more round. But it's not in the soil. It's in the fracture. The fracture is everything in terroir, We should do t-shirts like, this King Crimson, red. We should do fracture, burgundy, limestone, sand, this kind of t-shirt, because this is showing the typicity. And this is going to show in the vines. And this is going to show in the grapes. And then you need somebody connected to do the wine to understand that. And again, Rush, going back to Beppe Rinaldi, Citrico, as a veterinarian, John Mark is an actor. And that changed completely everything. Because you have an approach that is not based, on square thing. It's freedom mind. It's open freedom mind, and that's how you get. So I remember one day somebody was saying to me, well, the ones from John Mark are great, but it's so easy. He's harvesting first. Saying, no. Everybody can harvest first.
No, it was maybe true about 10 years ago. Now I'm not harvesting first. There are maybe 4 or 5 estates who are harvesting before me. So it's not the only, it's not a recipe.
And I know it's not that. It's not too hard. That would be so easy. Everybody, guys, everybody, let's go harvest first the Chardonnay. We're going to make the rouleau, you know? It's way
And you know, you told
complex.
I am sure, but there is something else I want to mention. We are family. We have a still tradition. We are distillator.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
Producing alcohol means you like to be in the earth of the product, and to be in the earth of the product in Pedro Parra's language, it means to be close to the limestone, you know. And salut.
That's a huge fan, Hector.
Yeah. Bon, enjoy the apricot. Salut. And yes, we love the distilling, and it's a school. For me, it was a school for wine, and of course for my father, because he was doing it for a long time before me. And I'm sure the distillation was a school for wine, for precision, for, you know, to be. You were speaking about the la flèche, the narrow. Some part it speak a lot to me.
And it's difficult to do that because many times when you get a terroir that is dominated by sand and limestone, the wine can have this kind of, you know, la flèche, this kind of arrow, but the wine is short in mouth, because when you lack clay, the wines are losing in volume, you know. So the real difficult thing in the world is to be elegant, have the arrow, you know, and the volume, the mid palate. That is the essence. And again, Rush, remember, you need to work the soil of your vineyard great. You need to understand that. You don't need to be a soil expert. You need to be clever to do that. Timing is important, and you need to be connected in your experience in your winemaking and learn every year, you know. And you were saying, Rush, you want to taste the reds from your mark. But your market is connecting and learning from Daniela Fernando. This is to be open-minded. Everybody learn from everybody. Nobody knows enough, you know, and we're going to die, and we're not going to be clever enough. We need to learn from each other. That is the thing. John Mark, so the one that we're trying is Tesson 2018, and I know that Tesson is a very important vineyard for you. What is Tesson for you in terms of family and history and on?
It's a very emblematic plot because in the past, you know, in the estates there were no Premier Cru, not at all. And my father loved his job, and he bought or rent different plots on the northern side of Meursault, including Méchavaux, Luché, Vireuil, and they bought Tesson in the 50s. And you know, Tesson was a plot which was with the phylloxera crisis was completely destroyed. So they abandoned the vineyard. Then the trees came back. They built a small house, very nice house. While there were trees, it's a very nice house. I'm seeking to renovate. And then my father bought this plot. It was trees, and I always heard about the replanting of Tesson as a huge thing. You know, they were taking off trees, 70 or 80 years old trees, and the Tesson is very well located on mid slope, which means 260 meters east facing. If you go northern, the coast is turning more north. Luché is the same level on the slope, but more northeast. Then you have Auxey-Durès. So it's a very good, in terms of village level wine, it's very close to Premier Cru situation, which is southeast, but at the same level. On this line, 260 meters, you have Perrières-Dessous, Genevrières-Dessus, Bouchères, you have the Charme-Dessus, you have the best of Meursault. And if you go up to north, you have Tesson. So it's a clos. It's not a monopoly. Pierre Moret owns a part of it. It's a plot of 0.84. And voila, it's the reputation of the domain came first from village level wine and Bourgogne Blanc, because I'm very interested with Bourgogne Blanc to produce a Bourgogne Blanc. And it's among the village level wine is probably the best location. It's right up the village, and when you're in this house, in this clos, you have a beautiful view of Meursault. So I spent a lot of time when I was a kid in the vineyard, and c'est mon chouchou, comme on dit en français. Voilà. So this is the story of Tesson, and at the beginning he called it Le Tesson. Then his American importer in the 60s asked him to add the name of the clos, so he called it Tesson Clos de Montplaisir. And then in 2014, I changed it to the exact name, which is engraved on the stone over the door in the clos, which is à mon plaisir. Ça parle, hein, to my pleasure.
Ah,
Je fais du vin pour moi. Excusez-moi.
You're right.
Non, mais voilà, à mon plaisir, Clos du Haut-Tesson. Voilà, this is the real name. Et I like this idea to produce a wine you like to drink. You know, you don't have to seduce anybody. You have to seduce yourself, and you hope a lot of people will follow you. But so it's the best way to argue, to defend the wine. Voilà.
You're right. Raj, what do you think? I know, so Rajpal knows, okay, so the first day I met Jean-Marc, you know, when he was leaving, he was going to something social, so family, I don't remember very well. And he was there, and Raj and Jean-Marc told me, we know the same guys, because I know Rajpal very well, you know, and that was, Raj was a connection in the beginning between Jean-Marc and myself, for sure. And so I know Raj knows Jean-Marc very well for many years, you know, and Jean-Marc, Raj always told me about the wines from Jean-Marc. How can you, Rajpal, give me an idea of what you see on why the wines of Jean-Marc are so good in your experience?
I'm biased because people know how I feel about the wines and about Jean-Marc, and also to taste the wines over the 20 years I've known Jean-Marc, first as a sommelier working and buying the first, I think I bought 99 was the first vintage I bought at a restaurant in San Francisco. And now you see, you know, not many people in the world who have achieved the highest precision, quality, ageability are still engaged in talking to people like you and me, especially you, and still having an open mind to learn how can you get better after making amazing wines for so long. He still wants to get better. So, you know, I think in the past, the wines were, of course, were dense and precise, but now they feel they have even more energy on all sides. In the beginning, the energy was like this. Now it's like this.
Yeah.
So you've gained breadth in the wine. They are not just precise; they are complex, dense, precise in like a motor train. You know, going fast, but more complexity and more weight.
But you know, I like to search because I hate repetition. You know. Of course, you have a basic method. You reply every year, but I like to progress, to look for new things in the vineyard, in the cellar, to experiment. I like this. I like this. It's something living.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And for you, Jean-Marc,
yes.
What is Domaine Rouleau in 10 years? Difficult question.
You know, okay, I have several ways to answer. You have to know, maybe you know, I just come back from Argentina, where I was harvesting a week ago in Patagonia, northern Patagonia, and you know, Pedro Inchiza, he builds a place, incredible place. I mean, the feeling you receive from the nature is unbelievable. It's so strong, deep, intense. And so the vineyard expresses this. The energy is unbelievable. And of course, I'm not going to reply Patagonia in Burgundy, but you know, this biodiversity, this the way they respect the nature. I would love to move the estate in this direction, which means maybe to plant some trees in the vineyard to keep a place with different plant in the vineyard.
Biodiversity.
Yes, that's what I learned in Patagonia. I know we lost some, of course, but when you travel, it's obvious. It's obvious what we lost here in Burgundy. So I'd like to. It's a big challenge, but I'd like to try on my little side, try to fight a little bit to reintroduce something which we lost. And so this is the way I wanted the domain to continue. And about the people, I have two sons. One is 24, the youngest is 12. I have a very good team, and I have a sensation we can build something human, generous, happy. That's what I'm looking for.
I think life is too short.
Yeah.
That is a question I ask myself every day, because there is no 1 minute that you can spare with stupid people, bad people. You need to enjoy, your life. And in my case, I'm so happy. I'm so happy in my winery now that I at one moment in the year with the COVID shit and everything, I was thinking I should quit consulting. Travel to see my friends, talk to my friends, dig with my friends, but my winery complete me 100%. I think it's from different moments in your life. And it's a conversation I have with many of my friends on wine, and because the fear is that when you reach a moment where your wine is so atomic like your wines, what is the next challenge? The next, and you are very clever, because your next challenge, I'm very clear, is with Piero in Patagonia. That is the energy that is coming to your life. It's like, and it's my energy is to travel to see my friends and to dig here. You need to get energy from somewhere, because if you don't get that, every year the same wine, the same cru wine and I see that Rush is now a viticulturist. So. Mm-hmm. One day I met Rush in the restaurant in San Francisco, and he said to me something that was very strong to me. I cannot talk to people anymore, and I understand completely, because every night the same blah 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 blah. At one moment you need to make a change in your life, and I think I'm happy that you're doing the Patagonia project, because you're bringing something to South America, not only to Argentina, but people in Chile. People know that you're Marc Rouleau. You should sell some wines in Chile as well.
Yeah, I should. Yes,
few cases. Okay, I have the guy.
Okay.
But people there's an energy in the southern hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Chile, and Argentina. We don't have yet the history, but we do have the energy. And many times I feel that in Europe you have the history, but you don't have the energy. It's a mix. And I went through that with Louis Michel. When Louis Michel came to Chile the first time, he said, well, he will be like horrified. What is that? And at the end, Louis Michel was taking the energy. And so that is the balance to me on wine. You need to take energy from friends, from
the people too, of course.
Yeah, that is the thing.
Yeah.
So, and I want to share with the people that is listening to that one thing that was very important to me, and this is in the book, Jean-Marc. And you. So I remember one day it was raining, and we were working with rain. That was a cold day, and we went back to the winery. That was, if you go to the winery, there is the fireplace that is a great fireplace that I want to cook in at home, in the winery. So I was getting, warm, And then we sit and I open my computer and I open the electromagnetic maps and all these things. And we did a blind tasting of 5 of the crew from your mark. And that was great because you're learning, you sow the soil, and after sowing the soil, you're tasting the wines. I mean, wine is your life, you know, you get the soil and the wine at the same time. And I was very happy. And John Mark, I knew that he was very happy as well. And at that moment, John Mark went into the, you know, in the bottling room or somewhere, and he came back with a bottle of wine, no label, you know. And I was working, and he was sitting with me, and he opened the wine, and he poured the wine to me and said, "It's Perrier something, I don't know, 2014 maybe or 12, I don't know anymore." And that was the first time in my life I got a Perrier. And one of my dream always was, I want to try a Perrier from Domaine Rouleau, and it's impossible to get that. And then Jean-Marc went again, I don't know, to the office, something, and I was sitting in front of my computer with my Salto glass, with the Perrier in my Salto glass, and I was shaking like that, you know. I'm fucking here sitting with my computer with the Perrier map, with the wine of here. I can drink the wine in front, and that was a very emotional moment in my life. I will never forget that in my life. You know, that was it's like when, and I always say that to my kids, you know, when you're starting playing something, soccer or whatever, and you play for your local team, then you go to the best team, then you have the chance to go and maybe play in Spain, and then one day maybe you're going to play in UK, and if you are good, you're going to play in the Manchester United or Arsenal or whatever. That day I felt complete, you know. I was sitting, drinking that wine with John Mark, looking at the maps, and I can die after that, you know. I was very emotional that day.
Pedro, I just want to tell you, next time you come, since 2018, you know, I told you about the distillation, and we're producing Mar de Bourgogne, but I separate my different Mar de Bourgogne after the press. So I'm not doing just Mar de Bourgogne. I'm doing Mar de Bourgogne from Luché, from Tesson, from Boucher, from Charme, and from Perrier. So the next step is to recognize the terroirs through the brand.
That would be amazing.
Pedro,
Pedro,
it's amazing. Yeah, Basil.
Are you coming, Raj?
I will come, but I have to leave now because
I know.
I have to jump on call, and I got to head back to the vineyard because today,
Okay, so before you leave, Fernando, Daniel, Raj, Piero, I don't know if Piero is there or not, but Piero, Jean-Marc, we're going to meet everybody all together at Jean-Marc Rouleau house.
Yes.
We're going to empty the cellar and empty the food.
Oh, putain.
Jean-Marc, be prepared. We are coming. We are coming.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon.
Guys, Raj, Mark,
with you. Salut.
yes, Daniel, Fernando, everybody, thank you very much. We're leaving now.